Oh, excuse me. I couldn't have had that more planned than I tried. Clearly, the sun is shining and I'm sneezing. My poor body does not know what this heat and this yelping actually are. So it's freaking out right now. So welcome to a Wednesday's masterclass. So every Wednesday I jump on here and I create some training for you guys. So if you ever have something you want me to talk about that I can, and we'll talk about what that might be, please just let me know. Just come into the group and let me know. So the sort of things that I can talk to you about is mindset. It is about visibility. It is about overcoming fear and challenges. It's about creating awesome content, creating offers, getting seen and heard, launching, selling, all of the juicy goodness that we need in our businesses to thrive and success. But it could also be about business strategies, business models. It could be also about like, how the heck do you juggle it all? I was asked a really great question over in the 5K Club this week, which was about, how do you structure your week? Because I think we all get really overwhelmed. So I shared how I structure my week. And it could also be about overcoming procrastination. It could be about how you create more freedom in your life. How do you run a business alongside raising a family? This is a community, this is a sisterhood in here. And anything that you think, I'm sure Rachel would have an answer for this, ask me. Carol was in here last week and she wanted to know about email marketing, which is something I'm still going to create, and somebody else wanted something which I created last week. So this is kind of your time to ask me for what you want, and I will create it for free in here for you. So what I wanted to share with you is, it's like a continuing theme, but I think it's so very relevant and really essential for us to talk about and to recognise that this is a real thing that happens. It's something that's very normal, and if you're feeling like this, you're not alone. And I'm also going to talk about how you can move away from it. So as you jump on live, come say hi. If you're watching the recording back, ask me your questions. Something for you to think about if you are not currently doing regular videos in your kind of Facebook world, is that the majority of your audience will actually watch your content back later. So if you've been doing lives and you're a bit disheartened with the numbers of people who actually arrive live, don't let that put you off. Keep going. This is a really powerful tool to actually use in your business, and to have the knowledge that the majority of people will watch your lives back later. So, and there's all sorts of different ways you can structure it so you can get people hooked from the moment you start. So this started, this whole conversation about how you move away from fear and actually program yourself for success. This happened yesterday over in my live that I did on my Facebook page, and I shared it again here. So she's in here, just scroll down and you will find it, where we talk about this fear that we all have as human beings. And it comes from that very primitive state that we have, where we had to decide in our early life as man, we had to have that whole fight and flight programming within us, that is that we're either going to stand and fight or we were going to actually run away from something. So it's really natural for us to feel fearful, because that is the thing that's keeping us safe. But in business, it's also the thing that is keeping you from growing, it's keeping you safe, and it's keeping you stuck in your groove. So we need to have ways of overcoming our fear, and what we need to be doing, like what's the opposite of fear, what we need to be doing is actually programming ourselves for success. Success is the number one thing that will make the biggest difference in your business. So let me just rephrase that. So programming yourself for success is the number one thing that will make the biggest difference in your business. And I'll qualify that as we go on. So let's just start with my story, because I can expand on it further than I was able to yesterday, because more things happened. and more enlightenment happened. And then we'll talk about how you can program yourself for success, and I'll qualify what I mean by saying that it's programming yourself for success is the number one thing. And I'll give you some examples of that as well. So yesterday I went over onto my live and I made a confession that I was doing something over and over again, which was actually terrifying me. And I related this back to business. So don't worry, I'm not disclosing personal things to you for no reason. This is all relevant back to business. So the confession was that last night I was going for my 4th skiing lesson, and I confessed that I was very fearful of skiing, and of particularly last night because we were all graduating from the nursery slopes onto the big slope, and it was a really big deal for me, mainly because I didn't feel at the time that I had actually addressed my fear completely. And not sufficiently to actually progress onto the big slope. So this big deal was kind of happening yesterday. So I went off last night and I went and had my lesson. And they decided to do something which none of us were expecting. And basically they had everybody, regardless of where they were on their training program, they had everybody going down the nursery slopes and showing the instructors if they were capable of moving onto the big slope. So even the people who had progressed onto the big slope had to prove themselves again. And then the people who, like myself, who hadn't had an awful lot of experience, had to prove themselves. And do you know what happened? Out of the 19 people who were on this training course, and you've got to remember that the average age of that group was 11-year-olds. The only person who did not graduate from the nursery slopes was me. Everybody else was able to control their skis sufficiently to graduate immediately within 5 minutes of getting there. And I was the only one left on the slope. In fact, I fell off my skis quite dramatically in last night's lesson. And, it's one of these things that could have been absolutely soul destroying. So as everybody went down the slope and they all got to turn right to go onto the big slope, and everybody but me. And hi, Carol, lovely to see you here. I'm just kind of expanding on what happened in my skiing experience last night. So everybody apart from me turned right and went onto the big slope, and I was left. In fact, I went through this fence and I fell over. And as the instructor was pulling me up, I said to him, well, I think I'm staying here, aren't I? And he was like, yeah. And he gave me some pointers about the things that I was doing wrong. And he said, yeah, just stay here and we'll keep an eye on you, but we're going to take everybody up to the big slope. So everybody went up to the big slope apart from me. And there was a moment at that point when I nearly said, do you know what, it's not for me. I've tried and tried and tried, and it's something that's not naturally coming to me, and I give up. I nearly said it. It was on the tip of my tongue to share. And for whatever reason, I didn't. And this is like us in business. We can be facing a constant thing that's constantly making us slide down the hill on our bottoms or something similar. And we've got a choice, haven't we? We've got a choice. And this is what I was talking about last night in the live, is that we've got a choice to decide what we want to do at that point. And I had a choice, didn't I? I could have I had a number of choices. I could have given up. That would have been the easiest thing to do. And maybe in some people's opinion, the best thing to do. I could have continued, but been very hard on myself and given myself a really hard time and just took all the pleasure out of it. Or the third thing that I did, oh, hello, Florence is going to come in and say hello.
Hello.
Like twins, aren't we, with our shirts on?
Is going to have some chocolate?
No, because you're going to have your tea soon because you're going to ballet.
2.
Who would have thought we would have got that from the mouth of an angel? So I made a choice, and I decided that I was going to be all in to actually nail this. And 20 minutes of hard frigging slog of me going up and down this slope on my own. I clocked it. Every 90 seconds, I was able to come down the slope, get back up and go again. And it was like, I could have had it in my head like, Rachel, you're absolutely useless. And this is a sort of soundtrack that I would have had in my head in the early days of running my business, when things weren't going right, or when I wasn't being consistent with my actions and then wondering why I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And it certainly was a sort of soundtrack that I had in my head when I could see everybody else being absolutely awesome in the business, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't being awesome as well. But I made a choice that I was all in, and I was going to nail this. And I remember those 90-second loops that I was going up, and I was like on the lift thing going, come on, Rachel, God loves a trier. And blimey, I'm such a trier. And I started to nail it. I started to nail being in control, being able to turn. And sometimes I missed the bollard. Sometimes I went like my legs went through the bollard. But I was doing it, and I thought, is this the time for me to go on the big slope? And I thought, no, I need to feel really confident with this before I take the next step. And it's exactly the same in business. So I continued to do this 90-second loop. I'm not going to say that I was like an expert by the end of it, but I felt like I was ready. And I felt like I was ready, and I was excited to take the next step. And in those 20 minutes, I'd built that belief in myself that I was ready to go to that next step, which was to go into the next slope. And at that point, the trainer came over and she said, come on then, I think you're ready. Just go up to the top and show me again. And you just think, oh, okay, off we go. And I completed it, and then I went onto the slope, onto the main slope, and I went up with the instructor. She was ahead of me on the lift. I went up behind her, and she said, oh, I've got a couple of children that I'm taking down individually that are a little bit nervous. And I think she thought that I would just wait for her. And I was there, and I was like excited to go, not scared, but excited to go. And I just went. And it's funny because it's like flat, and then you've got to get yourself to like a bit that's a decline. So you kind of slodge yourself forward. And then I started doing it, and it was like absolutely awesome. So I had 30 minutes of skiing on the main slope. I was terrified at one point because there was this little girl who's 3 having a lesson. She was absolutely awesome. She had no problem. Oh, but she was like, I had to turn to avoid her, and I was like, I don't want to crush the 3-year-old. And then I had a couple of instances, like my son came up behind me too close, and he was on path to like take me out basically, and he started shouting at me because he was obviously a little bit scared. And I just said to him, you're in control of your own skis, you need to change direction. And he did, and we were fine. But I was absolutely elated at the end of that. And it was one of the little girls, the 11-year-old girls, who turned around to me and they were like, you did it! Brilliant, well done. And everybody was absolutely elated because the majority of them had had the whole lesson on the main slope, and they'd all really had chance to perfect what they've learned and how they did it. And for me personally, I felt absolutely elated. And this is exactly the same in business. So everything that I've relayed here is directly related to, it's probably related to how I learn as an individual. But this is, how I was in business, is that I beat myself up all the freaking time. I gave myself such a hard time, and I made no progress. But the moment that I made a decision that I was all in, and that I was done with being scared and being blaming other people, or saying that they were the only lucky ones, or they had a rich husband who had like all this ability to support them, as soon as I took responsibility for myself, got the frigging support, and then started to take the consistent action and allowed myself to be scared and to learn from those lessons and to keep moving forward, is the reason why I'm in the situation that I'm in now. And it will be the reason why I'll be wherever I'm going to be at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. And I can't tell you, I mean, if you've been following me for a while, you'll probably see the transformation that I've had in my business over the last kind of 18 months. But where I am today is in a completely different situation. So what I wanted to share with you today was that story, because I think it's really relevant to business, and I really wanted to show you how scared I used to be about business. And not only did it come down to choice when things changed in my business, it's when I started to program myself for success. So rather than, like last night, I could have quit. I could have just quit, couldn't I? Or I could have continued to learn, but been really hard on myself and creating lots of reasons why I wasn't a natural at this. But I didn't. And what I wanted to really share is that actually programming yourself for success is, for me, the fundamental, most powerful, most amazing thing that you can actually do for yourself. It's free. It's like a gift, isn't it? And what I'd say is, not only do you build up your own belief and your confidence in yourself, but you get a ton of clarity about who you are, who you want to be, what your message is, what you're making a stand for, who you want to work with, what's coming up next. I can't tell you the number of times I've been journaling on a morning, I've had no desire to create something new, and I've got a total download of the next thing that I'm going to create, and I've gone off and I've created it and I've launched it and I've sold it, and it's been amazing. I get clarity about maybe the blog post or a video that I'm going to create, or maybe something free. But for me, taking that time out every day gives me the opportunity to build my confidence, build my self-belief. It also gives me a ton of clarity about where I'm going to. I've only got less than 6 hours a day to work in my business, and it gives me a ton of clarity about how the heck I'm actually going to make everything that I want to happen, make happen in my business and in my life. So let me know if you've got any questions about that, or any ahas from what I'm sharing with you. You know, I know that it's the week seems to have taken on a bit of a theme about moving away from fear, but it is so important, and we need to recognize that it's A, totally fine to have fear, but B, that it's like facing those fears. It's like it's the closed doors that once you start to work through them, the doors just disappear. And the doors being the opportunities, the clients, the joint venture opportunities, the money that's coming into your business. So however difficult it might feel, all I can share is it's worth it. And I know from what Carol shared previously is that, you know, she's like trying to work through her fear of visibility. And luckily for Carol, she's in the 5K club. So within the training bundle, Program Yourself for Success, there's a whole section on facing your fear. And it's really great to actually write down all of your fears, your kind of negative beliefs, your challenges, however you want to frame them, and actually look at them and decide which one's actually holding you back the most right now, and what you're going to do to actually bust through those fears. And sometimes you can do it on your own, sometimes you can do it with mindset. Often you need help and support to do that, some accountability, definitely. That's why people are in masterminds, are in clubs. That's why people come and work with me privately. It's because they want that accountability, they want that support, they know they're not going to get any further on it on their own. Yeah. So Carol says, it's such a great analogy. It's such a great analogy, isn't it? This week, moving away from fear is just what I need, yeah. So I really wanted, because of, like, I shared so much yesterday, but then last night there was even more to share. I was like, oh my God, I've got to do another live. I've got to keep talking about skiing. I'll tell you what I did do as well in a minute. We won't be going back until the end of May for our next lesson. And there won't be any nursery slopes at all. So I was thinking, right, I've got to write down everything I did. So I wrote it down in my journal, everything I did last night, everything I felt, and everything I'd learned and put into practice. So I feel like that is now programmed within me, definitely. So feeling fear is normal. Feeling resistance is normal. The most powerful thing that you can do for yourself is face it and make a commitment to work through it. And yes, you will transform where you are. And it's knowing that where you are right now, when you you'd make that decision that you're going to change and that you're going to work on your fears, is that you will never be in this place again. And that's a really powerful thing for you to remember, Carol, is that you will never be in this place worrying about your visibility again, because you are making a commitment to yourself and your future self that you are all in on working through your visibility. And that means as you work through it, as you become consistent and comfortable and confident with it, that you will actually get to a point where you will be like a future version of yourself, being really comfortable with visibility. And this version of yourself that you are in, it's like you're shredding your skin. It's dropping away from you. You're not going to be in this position again. And that's what happens when you work on fear. Right, I better go and cook Florence some pasta before she goes to ballet. If anybody else has got anything that they want to ask me with how you can program yourself for success, please let me know. If you've got any other ha-has or stories that you would like to share, please come and share in here. And yeah, let's keep skiing down those slopes and busting through the fears, because everything we want is on the other side of that, isn't it? Okay, have a very fabulous Wednesday evening, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.